Outlast 2 holds one of the hardest achievements in gaming history. The Messiah achievement requires you to beat the game on insane difficulty, which is also a permadeath difficulty, and without using more than one camera battery, so most of the permadeath run is completely played in darkness. Not to mention this game is about 4 hours long, if not more, just by itself. Add in the full anxiety of the achievement and you've pushed the time by a couple of more hours. All in all, this achievement took me about a week to 2 weeks in order to even come close to beating it, and some of the deaths I experienced were horrible and sometimes completely broke my spirit. So I put them in the video for all of your enjoyment. I do want to give a quick shout out to 2 YouTubers that really helped with this achievement with their guides. YouTubers like Godlike Matt and Gamer's Guide helped tremendously with almost every single encounter, and without them I don't think I would have been able to beat this whatsoever. So, without further ado, let us begin our jump into this spirit-breaking, lunatic-driven, absolute insane achievement journey. Okay, here we are going for the Messiah and Saint achievements inside of Outlast 2, which is not, I don't know, this is going to be hard. I have not played this game in actual years either. I played this when it first came out, and then I don't think, since I've gotten the rest of the achievements, played it since. I can't remember specifically, though. I might have ran through it to try it a couple of times on Insane, but never got too far. I did 100% though Outlast 1 and Whistleblower for those achievements. So, I think we should be good here, but I did hear that this one is 10 times harder than, of course, Outlast 1 or Whistleblower was. So we'll see how it... Okay. I do remember most of this game though, I think. So I think we'll be pretty good. After we awake from the helicopter crash, we find the pilot completely disfigured and Lynn has disappeared, so Blake continues through the mountain terrain. We come up on a town looking and urging for help from the locals, but the locals seem to not be so happy to have met us. And now we truly begin our journey into absolute insanity with the first viewing of the locals. We make it to the first area we can die at, and to one of the one-hit kill enemies of the game, Marta. Now I know Marta is a one-hit kill. Marta. Oh, we're good. Holy shit, we made it. I did not even expect that. We finally meet up with Lynn and can escape these crazy people once and for all. There she is.
Oh God, Blake.
Are you okay?
No.
What the fuck?
I don't know. Oh shit. We have to run.
There.
We're then ambushed by another group known as the Heretics, who want Lynn to have the baby Noth claims she's carrying. They take Lynn and leave us behind. We're hit by a bright white light blast and somehow end up back in Blake's Catholic school from when he was a child. After heading through the front gate of the school, we're brought back to the real world and tumble down a huge mountainside. We're found by one of the citizens, but this one is actually normal and isn't trying to completely kill us.
No.
He brings us to his cabin and allows us to have refuge and hide from the citizens of Templegate. He gives us bed and lets us rest up and heal from the trauma already inflicted upon us from the rest of the locals. Alright, so Ethan went ahead, gave us a place to sleep, gave us a place to rest, even though we lied to him and said his daughter's fine, even though she is completely dead. But as long as he doesn't know that, we're fine. After Martyr kills Ethan, we continue on our journey through Templegate in order to find Lynn. We make it to a barn after getting away from the citizens within the cornfields. Oh no. How did the music amp up?
I am the goddess of screams.
Oh, that's why, that's why. That's why I died. We got pretty far on our first run. And thus, we took our first death of the run with many, many more to come. After about 4 attempts, we are finally back to where we were earlier. Or my first attempt. All we're gonna do is wait for like this guy to basically walk around. And then all we gotta do is push this here. Climb. And climb, and we're past that part. Yes. Okay. Still have a lot of game to go, though. Still got a lot of game to go. Oh, okay. We make it to a heretic temple within the town, showing us that this war between the two factions have been going on for way longer than anyone would know. We gotta make this jump. Now, the jumps in Outlast are notorious for killing people and ending runs. So we're good there. I mean, we made that. And then we just continue through here. We make it to the town center where we have one of the run-ending moments. We have to power up the generator and make it back to the elevator without being killed by multiple enemies within the area. Oh my god! Oh my god, what was that? And there we lost our second run like it was nothing. I made a huge mistake by taking way too long and got myself cornered really fast. After several attempts, once again I found myself right back at the town center. I increased the brightness on the Elgato as well in order to try and see better to make the game easier. So if the brightness is really high on the video, I really apologize for that. After making it to the generator, finally we power it up, and now we just have to make our way back to the elevator without dying. In typical fashion, Nathsai, aka Marta, shows up once again to try and kill us, but with smooth maneuvering we can make it past her. The anxiety though with Marta is you never really know how far she is from you, and she moves super fast, but the scream she does makes it almost completely impossible to figure out the distance you create, so it becomes a run for your life moment every single time she appears. We make it back to the elevator, cutting it really close with Marta, and almost having another run end right in the town center. We get pulled into the well by some weird long tongue-like creature, and end up right back at the school once again, but this time inside of the vents for some weird reason. After falling out of the vents, we follow Jessica through the school to find a music box within her locker. We find a hanging Jessica who gets pulled up into the ceiling by the same weird tongue thing that pulled us down the well. We head through the door back into reality and are attacked by one of the citizens whose house we entered during these hallucinations. He throws us down the stairs and we begin a huge chase from everyone within the town. We escape the ones chasing us only for a short amount of time as the chase and hunting is still on. We make it through the basement tunnels and end up in another house across town, but still the fun isn't over just yet. Once we come up from the basement, they find us once again and we begin running for our lives from everyone within the town once again. We finally make it away from the crazed lunatics by diving through a very small and skinny window, and the chase is off. We're finally safe, at least just for the moment. We jump out of the second story of the building, heal up, and head into the biggest run killer of the game. This next section once again has Marta, but with very limited hiding spaces and a one-hit kill enemy. The high intensity can mess you up fast if you don't keep a level head, and on many of my runs this is exactly where those runs would end, every single time. What we have to do is push this cart to the gate in front of it, while Marta is chasing us and trying to kill us. She can be hard to figure out, and this game is very randomized as well, so some things she does might not be the same on your next run either. Anything RNG based, especially on a permadeath run, makes things even worse for situations like this. I tried a load of different strategies, and honestly most of them I couldn't get down, but there is a glitch in this section that makes this part the easiest part of the game by despawning Marta completely from the area. In typical fashion though, I managed to mess up the strategy I was using, and she grabbed me, killing me almost instantly, and thus ending another run of mine faster than it had started. After a load of attempts, I finally made it past Marta and could make it further through the game. At this point, my spirit was beginning to break and I hadn't even made it to chapter 2 of the game yet. After making it to the chapel, we listen in on some horrible things that of course I've blurred out, where we find out that the heretics have taken Lynn to the mines to have the baby there. We make our way out of the chapel and begin our journey towards the mines, but the lunatics are still hot on our heels no matter what we do. After escaping the lunatics once again, we end up down in Marta's territory, and yes, the woman will not leave us alone no matter how many times we escape her grasp. In every fashion, we get her attention and run her around this huge silo so we can squeeze through a gap and be safe once again. We grab a meat hook and head back towards Marta so we can continue towards the mines. After making it back to the first area, Marta begins her chase again, but we squeeze through another gap, connect the meat hook, and pull the gate up so we can make it out alive. Marta bursts through, but we can make a slide, and for the first time within the game, Blake actually fights back, kicking Marta right in the face, causing her to let go of us, and the gate closes right behind us. Now there's nothing holding us back from finally making it to the mines. Unfortunately, we're back at the school and have to follow Jessica again in order to make it out. These first school sections though are kind of good breathing room, because you can't die in any of them, at least not until later on within the game, so that we can make it through and be brought back to reality again. Heading through the school's ceiling vents, we're grabbed by the weird long tongue creature thing again, and the hallucination finally ends. Finally, with only a couple of more steps, we can make it to the mines and rescue Lynn from the crazed heretic group. During the walk over the boards, a group of locusts force Blake off of the boards in a huge and hard fall right down into Skull territory, thus taking away the mine's opportunity right from us. After loads of attempts, we finally found ourselves on Chapter 2. To be fair, Chapter 1 is probably the longest chapter within the entire game and has some of the worst run-ins of the entire game as well. Chapter 2 though ups the ante with the aimbotting Nick and Laird, whose sections make Chapter 1 look like an absolute cakewalk. After releasing ourselves from the tree, we begin our journey through the Skull territory. We're then jump scared and puked on by one of the Skull, which is not only nasty, but imagine the diseases Blake is leaving this place with. After climbing up some rocks, we're attacked by one of the Skull and forced down towards a campfire. And so begins our first Nick and Laird section of the chapter. Nick and Laird are also a one-hit kill enemy, and any mess-ups means the end of the run and another restart. The strat for this first section is to hide behind this tree until they get close and make a mad dash towards a cabin that ends the section without getting hit by an enemy or an arrow, because the arrow, again, is a one-hit done. As you can tell, I somehow messed up the strat and ended my first run making it to Chapter 2. After finally making it back to the area, I retried the strat once again, and just hope I somehow didn't mess it up a second time. My issue was that I was just way too close to Nick and Laird, and the AI grabbed me, so now if I make an even wider run around, I should be good. After running for dear life, I made it to the cabin and got sent right back into the school. We once again followed Jessica through the school, but with this school section we have gotten past the first high-intense Nick and Laird section with only 3 more to go in Chapter 2. After getting back to reality, we end up crawling through a log and getting captured by Nick and Laird and their merry band of Skald. Nick says we're the Messiah and they've been waiting a long time for. Nick, in order to test if we are, makes us taste his blood, which is absolutely sick. They nail us to a cross in order for us to die and be resurrected so that the Skald can feed on our flesh and be cured of all their sickness. Don't worry, the game gets way sicker moving forward. This is just the tip of the iceberg. The Skald all leave us on the cross and wait for the right time for us to be resurrected. Blake awakens still hanging on the cross and pulls his hands out from the nails, leaving massive holes in them. We head into a nearby campsite to find some bandages for our wounds. but I somehow screw that completely up and step on one of the sleeping skulls and get killed right away. Another end of a run to something so stupid I could have avoided altogether. After a million more attempts, we finally make it back to the camp we died at. We healed our wounds and continue through the skull territory. We make it to Nick and Laird's house where we hide under the water until they depart, and we make our way inside to finally get our camera back. Once we pick the camera up, we're transported back into the school, and this time we're at the very first school section where we can actually die. This weird humanoid creature appears and chases us throughout the school from here on out. We walk backwards down the hallway until the creature appears and begins his chase. We then make it to the hardest run ender in the entire game. Again, Nick and Laird are an aimbotting one-shot, one-kill enemy, and any sections with them is a hand-sweating, heart-pumping interaction. This section particularly, though, has a specific strat in order to make sure you make it past. We sprint to this house, lock all the doors, and patiently wait for Nick and Laird to bust down one of the doors before we make a go for the edge we have to make it to. We made it out of the woods for the first part of this section, but the fun isn't over just yet. We still have Nick and Laird hot on our trail as they begin to take shots at us from across the chasm. We crawl, run, and hide our way through this final part of the section to finally escape Nick and Laird once again. As I reached the end of the section though, I completely fumbled the ball and didn't move fast enough and got one-shotted, thus ending another long run of this insane achievement. Once again, in a very crushed state, I finally got back to the same area and made it past that ridiculous section. Once escaping the grasp of this enemy and sliding down this ridge, I'm captured once again by Nick and Laird and put in a casket to be buried alive. But the idiots only put a couple of pieces of dirt on the casket, so Blake escapes with ease, luckily. We finally make it to the final rage-inducing and one-shotting Nick and Laird section of Chapter 2. We run through the town in order to grab a rope so we can lower ourselves and escape them once and for all. We pull a branch, dropping a body onto the ground. After grabbing the rope though, one of the skulls hits us right away, decreasing our sprint movement and leaving us in an absolutely horrible state. And of course, I'm hit and killed right away from something I had no control over. Thus, another run, dead in the water. Finally making it back to the rope, we didn't get hit this time around and made our way through the house and left side just to make it a lot easier. We make it back to the building and tie the rope around a pole and start to lower ourselves down. Nick and Laird make it in, but are betrayed by the skull who throw them over the edge to their deaths. We crawl out and end up back inside of the school once again, this time with snow all around. After surviving the weird creature thing, we have to follow Jessica in absolute darkness till we find her. We find Jessica hanging and are transported back to reality, and finally the beginning of Chapter 3. We have finally made it to Chapter 3, which I'd like to describe as the easy chapter within the game. This chapter is nothing special, and it's very hard to actually die within until the very end of the chapter. We make it to a dock holding a tiny wooden raft that we take and use to continue towards the dock. Heading down the river, we spot the heretics tossing some bodies down into the water. With closer inspection, we realize most of the water is filled to the brim with dead bodies. Continuing down the river, we crash into a rock and are thrown off of our raft. We land on nearby land as our raft floats further down the river. Making it back to the raft, we head further down the river once again, getting ever closer to the mines. Making it just outside of the mines, we're ambushed by a group of heretics, and are thrown off of the raft and forced to make a break for the mines. Upon almost reaching the mines, we're grabbed by the weird tongue thing once again and pulled right down into the water. When we come back up, we're back in the school and do a quick 180 and make a run for it from the weird creature guy. We make it out of the pool and away from the monster and once again follow Jessica through the school. Reaching this hallway, the sprinklers go off and blood sprays out all over the place. Following the blood sprinklers, we make it to a ladder and climb up it and out back into the real world. Back into reality, we now begin Chapter 4, and all the calm and not worrying from the last chapter has completely faded away. This chapter can be both very easy and an absolute mess. But with our first time making it to Chapter 4, the morale and confidence had been increased tenfold, and I was prepared for anything this chapter could throw at me. Furthering through the mines buildings, we're thrown to the ground by one of the Temple Gate citizens. We follow him and end up right back inside of the school. The school sections are now becoming way more rapid and appear way more than at the beginning of the game. Running through the school, we're grabbed by the tongue once again and brought right back into the pool and reappear back to reality. Heading inside of this building, we're faced with our first intense moment of Chapter 4. As we crawl through here, 2 heretics appear and begin to hunt for us. But if we hide underneath this table over here, one of the heretics will head upstairs and despawn. Then all we have to do is wait for this heretic to leave the room and we're completely golden. After the heretic leaves the room, we head towards the stairs he came down from. Once making upstairs, the chase begins and a bunch of heretics try and make their way into the building. We escape the heretics by jumping out of a window and we're transported to the school again, this time hanging on outside of the window. Making it into the library, we have the most intense school section of the game. The library is absolutely dark and it's hard to see 2 feet in front of you. We use this battery set here on the table to know exactly where the creature spawns and prepare to juke around the bookshelves in order to make it back to the area where the creature had spawned originally. We escape the library and make it back to reality to even more of the heretics ready to rip our throats out. The heretics are hot on our heels though, and another chase ensues once again. Halfway through the chase though, we somehow lose the tail and can just walk the rest of the way. We fall out of a window right down onto Jessica's body, and just like before, we are back in the school once again. We run away from the creature again and right into the school bathroom. We hide in the stalls as the creature taunts and bangs on the doors in order to kill us. We shimmy from stall to stall until he finally disappears. Making it back to reality, we're hanging from a window once again and make our way back inside of the building. We push the dumpster out of the way and head down a huge rock pile, but once we make it to the bottom, we're chased down by even more heretics. Finally, we make it to the elevator to the mines. When the elevator arrives though, more heretics are ready to kill us, and another chase ensues, and we make a run for it so we can round back to the elevator. We make it back to the elevator and begin our descent down into the mines. We're so close to Lynn now, and the end of this horrible, sick, and absolutely insane nightmare of an achievement. Descending down into the mines, we begin Chapter 5, which is the second most intense chapter of the whole game. There's a few sections left, and we're so close to finally being done with this achievement. The hand sweat, heart pumping, interactions are close to being finished, and there's still about 2 hours left. If the run ends here, my spirit would completely break from it. We approach the first encounter within the mines, and the strat is to wait for this first heretic to leave and make a mad dash down the cave. We aggro the second heretic and run back up the cave where we came from. We run into this room and close and lock the door, and as the heretic busts down the door, we slide through this wall and wait for the heretic to walk by and disappear. Making it through the mines, we head around some stalagmites and drop down right into Val's territory. Some heretics grab us and Val lets us in on our plan for us and Lynn with the baby being born. The mines begin to collapse in on itself, and falling rocks crush the heretics holding us. We turn and begin to run away, except if you're me, you're not paying attention and end up getting one hit killed this close to the end of the Anyway, because I'm an idiot, we had another end of a run so close to the end of the game. Spirit broken, anger increased by over 9,000. After so many attempts, I finally made it back, and this time I was laser focused so that I didn't mess it up once again. We head into the dark water section where Val stalks us. All we have to do is pull 2 levers and make it out of the water section. But coming in closer to the end and this final intense moment, the feelings are absolutely huge. We flip the switches and escape Val's grasp, making it past the final intense part of the game. Unfortunately, we haven't fully escaped Val's clutches just yet, and she chases us for the last time through these small and tight caverns. There's not really a way to go faster, so at this point, I just pushed forward and hoped for the absolute best that I could. Making it through these caverns means the end is just within reach for me. We escape Val for the absolute final time and fall into a huge pit of water. We run and head towards the light as a bunch of heretics descend on our position. Heading around some more stalagmites, we slide down and a heretic blows some kind of smoke into our face. We get woozy and continue through the heretic's main chamber. I blurred this scene because some stuff goes on within the chamber as we make our way to Lynn. Val grabs and tackles us to the ground and we begin to hallucinate back into the school with Jessica. We walk with Jessica through the final school section of the game. As we're walking, we're approached by the priest, Father Laudermilch, who tells Blake to go home and leave Jessica behind. As Blake goes to leave the school, Jessica screams and runs away from Father Laudermilch. We head back towards where the screams are coming from and find Jessica dead on the stairs. We come back to reality and witness the Templegate citizens killing all of the heretics. We turn around and make a run for it away from the citizens. During the final run, I somehow get myself caught up on this wooden pile and get butchered by the Templegate citizens. So close to the end. So close to the finish line, and I lost the grip. Broken from this horrible loss, I took a break and came back to Outlast 2 the very next day. Upon several attempts the next day, I finally found myself not only back to the place I had died the previous day, but past it, and in the final chapter of the game, Chapter 6. We had found Lynn, who survived the heretic massacre as well. With being regrouped with Lynn, we make our way towards the temple chapel while the world is ending all around us. We make it to an old broken down shack where Lynn tells us we need to stop because the baby is coming. As we're resting and waiting for the baby to arrive, an old friend joins the party. That's right, Marta, whom we haven't seen since the beginning of the game, shows up for the final Outlast 2 chase. We get up from the bed and make a run for it so we can escape her once and for all. If I somehow mess this up, I'd lose it so fast. This final encounter is pretty hard to mess up, but if there's anything this achievement has taught me, it's that I can mess up even the simplest and smallest things. So we continue through the building where I get stuck on some things and make some wrong turns, but all in all, when we enter into the final area of the building, we are safe until the ending of the game. Just when hope looks like it's all gone and lost, then a giant spike comes flying out of nowhere and impales Marta, killing her instantly and putting an end to this insane lunatic nightmare. We make it into the chapel and set Lynn down on this torture device thing. She begins to have the baby, which I blurred out for obvious reasons. During the birth though, Lynn dies and Blake's left with the baby. We rest and are put back into the school talking to Jessica about Lynn. We come back to reality and Noth is in the chapel next to us telling us the child has brought upon the end of the world before he ends his own world. We leave the chapel and head towards the bright sun. All of the Templegate citizens has ended their own worlds as well. Even though the citizens chased us, killed us, and really did horrible things, I almost feel bad for them. Almost, because they ruined way too many runs. But as we stare off into the sun, it begins to move towards us, overcoming the world and ending it once and for all. We end up once again back inside of the school and find Jessica within the kitchen fridge. She grabs us and leads us into the fridge where we kneel and begin a prayer. The game ends, the credits begin to roll, and we get our Messiah achievement. After 2 weeks and continuous runs after runs of attempts, we've finally beaten this hard and rare achievement. Thus, I now have all Outlast games 100%ed and can put this achievement in the books. After starting this game when it came out, it's safe to say this game took me 7 years to 100% it. All in all, this achievement took me a full 2 weeks of non-stop grinding and a ton of hours of video footage by the end of it. It took me about a month to fully edit this video as well, but in the end, I think it was truly worth it. So I hope all my pain, suffering, and agony entertain you all, and if you made it all the way to the end, put a 100% in the comments so I know you watched it fully through. But with that all being said, thank you all for watching, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content, and remember to stay timeless.